You just sign for the car. The price is agreed, the handshake is done, then a friendly man in a small, quiet office waves you in to finish the paperwork. You sit down in that soft chair. And in the next 20 minutes, you can lose more money than you saved haggling on the lot for an hour. Here is what nobody told you. That little office is not where the deal ends. It is where the real selling begins. The whole room was built to work on you when you are tired, relieved, and ready to sign anything. But there are 7 plain words you can say the second you sit down. Say them, and that room loses its power over you. I found where those words came from, and I found the buried government report from 2013 that proves exactly why they work. This costs you nothing. You need no lawyer, no special knowledge, just 7 words and the nerve to say them. I remember my own last car. 19 years ago, a rainy Tuesday in a dealership outside town, that same little office with a bowl of peppermints on the desk. I walked out feeling clever. I had knocked $600 off the sticker. It took me years to understand that I gave back 3 times that much in the 20 minutes after, smiling the whole time. So let me tell you what I dug up, one piece at a time, because once you see how that room is built, you can never be fooled by it again. Let me start with the biggest lie of all, the one that makes everything else possible. You have been told that the finance desk is just paperwork, registration, signatures, boring forms you have to get through. That is what the word finance is meant to make you feel. Calm, sleepy, almost done. It is not paperwork. In the car business, that office has a name most buyers never hear. They call it the F&I office. That stands for Finance and Insurance. And in the trade, it is not called a paperwork room. It is called a profit center. I want you to hear that phrase, because it changes everything. A profit center is a place designed to make money, not to process forms. Here is the part that stunned me when I first read it. On many cars sold in America today, the dealership makes more money in that little office than it made selling you the actual car. Think about that. You spend an hour on the lot fighting over the price of a machine made of steel and glass, and the real money, the money that keeps the lights on, gets made in 20 quiet minutes afterward, selling you things you cannot see, touch, or drive. The industry does not hide this from itself. It hides it from you. Trade magazines for dealers openly call the finance office the most profitable square footage in the building. One report I found put the average front-end profit, the profit on the car itself, at just a few $100s on many sales, and the back-end profit, the money made in that office afterward, at well over $1,000 per customer, and often far higher. So the man in that chair across from you is not a clerk, he is the highest paid salesperson in the entire building. On many lots, the finance manager earns more than the people out on the pavement. He earns it in that room. He earns it on you. Now here is the beginning of your defense, before I even explain the 7 words. The moment you understand that this is a selling room, not a signing room, you sit differently. You stop being relieved. You start being careful. Because everything he offers you next was priced to be turned down twice and accepted the 3rd time once you are worn out. But to really understand how deep this goes, you have to know how that room was invented, because it was invented. It did not always exist. And once you learn who built it and why, the anger you feel will be the right kind of anger, the kind that saves you money. For a long stretch of the last century, buying a car was simpler. You picked the car, you agreed on a price, and you either paid or you arranged a loan at your own bank. The dealer sold cars. The bank handled money. 2 different jobs, 2 different buildings. Then, in the years after the Second World War, something shifted. Car dealers noticed that the plain profit on a vehicle was getting thinner. Buyers were smarter about the sticker. Competition was fierce. The margin on the metal was shrinking. So they went looking for money somewhere else. They found it in your loan and in your fear. Somebody realized that if the dealership arranged the financing itself, Instead of sending you to your bank, it could take a cut of the interest. And somebody else realized that a nervous buyer sitting in a chair having just spent a huge sum is the easiest person in the world to sell a little extra protection to. By the 1950s and into the 1960s, the dedicated finance and insurance office had been born as its own department, with its own manager, its own quotas, and its own bonus checks. That is the key fact. It has its own quotas. The man across the desk has a number he must hit every month, products he must sell to every 100 customers. He is not asking if you want an extended warranty because he is worried about your car. He is asking because his paycheck depends on how many people say yes. Now, here is where the running costs get serious. And here is where I have to tell you about the trick they used on me and probably on you. It is called payment packing, or sometimes just the monthly payment shuffle. Instead of talking about the total price of anything, the finance man talks only in monthly payments. He does not say this warranty costs $2,400. He says it is only $40 more a month. $40 sounds like nothing. It sounds like a dinner out. So you nod. But stretch $40 a month across a 6-year loan, and you just agreed to $2,880 plus interest on top. Because it is rolled into the loan, he turned a frightening number into a friendly one, and you paid for the trick. That is not an accident. That is the training. Every word of it is scripted. The moment I learned that the monthly payment talk was a deliberate technique with a name, I felt sick about my own car all those years ago. He never once told me a total. Not one time. It was all little numbers. And little numbers add up to a big hole in your savings. So the first myth is dead. That office is not paperwork. It is the most profitable room in the building, run by the best paid salesman there, using a payment trick that hides the true cost of everything. Therefore, the next question is the one that really matters. What exactly is he selling you in there? Because you cannot decline what you cannot name. And what I found was a whole menu of products priced with markups you would not believe. Let me walk you through the menu, because this is where your 7 words start doing their heavy lifting. Everything I am about to describe is what those words shut down in one breath. The first product is the extended warranty, which they now like to call a vehicle service contract. It sounds sensible. Cars are expensive to fix. Why not protect yourself? Here is what they do not say. The dealer buys that contract from a third company for a wholesale price, then sells it to you for whatever you will accept. The markup is enormous. A service contract the dealer paid perhaps $800 or $900 for is regularly sold for $2,000, $2,500, sometimes more. That gap is pure profit, and it is negotiable, which tells you everything. If the price can drop by $1,000 when you push, the first price was never real. The second product is gap insurance. This one covers the difference between what you owe and what the car is worth if it gets totaled. For some buyers, it makes sense, but the dealer often charges $600 to $900 for gap coverage that your own insurance company would add for a fraction of that, sometimes under $100 a year. Same protection. Wildly different price. And once again, it is rolled into the loan, so you pay interest on it too. Then come the small ones, and these are almost pure invention. Paint protection, which is often just a wax coating marked up to $500 or $600. Fabric protection, a spray you could buy in a can for a few dollars, sold as a package for hundreds. Rust proofing, largely unnecessary on modern cars that already come with corrosion warranties from the factory. VIN etching, where they scratch your car's number onto the glass and charge you $200 or $300 for something you could do yourself with a kit for $20. Nitrogen in the tires, key replacement plans, tire and wheel protection. On and on the list goes. Every single one of those items carries a markup that would embarrass you if you saw the wholesale sheet. And every single one of them is optional, not required, not part of the car, not part of the loan you must sign. Optional. That word is your shield. Here is the running tally on a typical trip through that office. Say you accept the extended warranty at $2,200, the gap coverage at $700, the paint and fabric package at $500, VIN etching at $250, that is $3,650 in add-ons, most of it markup, all of it rolled into your loan and quietly gathering interest for years, and you walked in thinking you were just signing forms. Now, I promised you this next part especially, and I mean it. If you are sitting there thinking that you could never stand up to a smooth, confident finance man, that you would get flustered, that you do not know the lingo and would just cave the way you always have, then this piece was made for you. Because the beauty of the 7 words is that they require no argument, no knowledge, no confidence. You do not have to debate him. You do not have to know what gap insurance is or how a service contract is priced. You just say your line once, calmly, and you keep saying it. Here are the 7 words. I decline all add-ons and dealer financing. That is it. I decline all add-ons and dealer financing. Say it the moment you sit down, before he opens his folder, before the peppermints, before the first friendly question about your grandchildren. You are not being rude. You are being clear. And clarity is the one thing that room is not built to handle. Watch what those words do. All add-ons wipes out the entire menu in a single stroke. You do not have to say no to the warranty, then no to the gap, then no to the paint, then no to the etching, getting more tired and more worn down with each one, which is exactly the marathon he is trained to run you through. You knock the whole thing over at once. And dealer financing tells him you will not let him touch your loan, which is the biggest hidden profit of all, and the one I am about to expose next. And what has that little office cost you across your life? If you bought a car every 7 or 8 years as an adult and gave back $1,000 or $1,500 in that room each time without knowing it, you have quietly handed over the price of a very nice used car. Gone. Vanished into the friendliest 20 minutes of the whole day. If this kind of research is useful to you, I want you to know that I have gone much deeper on all of it in my books, Smart Keys, Deep Senior Edge, and Deal Done, each one built around the same idea, that the information they never volunteer is exactly the information worth having. You can find them linked in the description below. They are written plainly, no jargon, no fine print, just the straight knowledge that puts you back in the driver's seat before you ever walk through the door. Now, back to the man sitting across that desk, because understanding who he is and what he is selling changes everything. If he keeps pushing, and he will, you do not need a new speech. You just repeat your line. He asks if you want to protect your investment. I decline all add-ons and dealer financing. He warns you that repairs are expensive these days. I decline all add-ons and dealer financing. He looks hurt, he sighs, he says most people take at least the warranty. Same 7 words. You are a broken record on purpose. A polite, unmovable broken record. There is no countermove in his script for a person who simply will not engage. Practice it once in the mirror before you go. Say it out loud in the car, in the parking lot. 7 words. You already own everything you need to use this today, which is a mouth and a spine, and I promise you the spine gets easier every time you use it. But I saved the biggest one for the finance man for last, because dealer financing is where the deepest, best hidden profit lives. And it is the reason the second half of those 7 words matters even more than the first. This is the part almost no buyer over 65 was ever told, and it is the heart of what I uncovered. Here is what you believe. You believe that when the dealer gets you a loan, the interest rate they quote you is the rate the bank gave. You believe they shopped around and found you the best number the lenders would offer. That is what it feels like. He taps on his keyboard, frowns a little, and says, "Good news. I got you approved at 7.5%. You feel grateful. You feel he did you a favor. He did not. Here is the truth that took me weeks to fully understand. When a dealer submits your application to a lender, the lender sends back what is called the buy rate. That is the real rate you qualified for. Say the bank approved you at 5%. The dealer is then legally allowed to mark that rate up before he tells you, and to keep the difference as profit. So the bank said 5, and he tells you 7.5. And that extra 2.5% flows straight back to the dealership over the entire life of your loan. It even has a friendly name inside the business. They call it dealer reserve or dealer participation. You never see the buy rate. He is not required to show it to you. So you sit there grateful for a number that was padded before it ever reached your ears, and you pay that padding every single month for 5 or 6 years. Let me put a real figure on it, because this is where the anger should turn cold and useful. Take a $25,000 loan over 6 years. At the honest 5% buy rate, you would pay a certain amount of interest. At the marked up 7.5%, you pay thousands of dollars more across the life of the loan. On many deals, that single hidden markup is worth well over $1,000 or even $2,000 to the dealership, and it costs them nothing. It is the easiest money in the building. They did not fix anything. They did not sell you a physical thing. They just changed a number on a screen and never mentioned it. And now here is the buried proof I promised you at the very start, the document that turns all of this from suspicion into fact. In 2013, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the federal agency created to watch over lending, went after this exact practice. That March, they issued formal guidance warning that these dealer interest rate markups were harming borrowers, and they had numbers to back it up. The markups were not small, and they were not spread evenly. Older buyers and other vulnerable buyers were routinely marked up more than sharp young hagglers, because the room counts on you not knowing to ask. That same year, one of the largest auto lenders in the country, Ally Financial, reached a settlement with federal regulators for roughly $80 million in payments to harm borrowers over exactly this kind of marked up lending. $80 million. That is not a rumor from a forum. That is a matter of public record. A federal action, real money paid back because real people were quietly overcharged on their car loans through the finance office. When I found that settlement, I finally understood that the thing I had felt in my gut about my own car all those years ago had a paper trail a mile long. So now the second half of your 7 words makes complete sense. And dealer financing means you are not letting that man touch your loan at all. You walk in with your financing already arranged. Before you ever go to the lot, you go to your own bank or your own credit union and you get pre-approved for a car loan. It is a simple thing. You tell them how much you plan to spend, they check your credit once, and they hand you a rate and often a check or a firm approval to bring with you. Credit unions in particular are known for low, honest rates and no interest in padding your number because you are a member, not a mark. When you have that approval in your pocket, the dealer's biggest hidden profit center is dead on arrival. He cannot mark up a loan he is not writing. And here is a bonus. When you tell him you have your own financing, sometimes he will suddenly find a better rate than he ever admitted existed because now he has to actually beat your bank to earn your loan. Suddenly, the good rate appears. Funny how that works. If his rate truly beats your pre-approval with no other strings, fine, take it. You win either way. But you only get that choice because you walked in protected. Let me total up the running counter now, because it has been climbing this whole time, and you deserve to see the full number. The padded interest from dealer financing, easily $1,000 to $2,000. The extended warranty markup, $1,000 or more. The gap insurance overcharge, $500 or $600. The paint, fabric, etching, and the rest, another $800 to $1,000. Add it up, and a single trip through that friendly little office for a buyer who does not know these things can cost between $3,000 and $5,000 over the life of one car, $3,000 to $5,000. On top of the price you already fought so hard to negotiate. And your 7 words? I decline all add-ons and dealer financing, backed by a pre-approval from your own credit union, shut down nearly all of it in the first 10 seconds you are in that chair. Now, let me give you the finale, the piece I found last and treasured most. because it turns you from someone who just says no into someone the finance man genuinely cannot work on. This is the real secret, and it comes straight from the rules that govern that room. Everything the dealer wants to sell you in that office is written down on a single document. It is called the buyer's order, or sometimes the purchase agreement, and every one of those add-on products has to appear on it as a separate line item with its own price, because that is what the law and the lender require. It cannot be hidden inside the car price. It cannot be blended into one big number legally. Each add-on is its own line. Here is the buried, forgotten piece of knowledge. You have the absolute right to ask for that document and read every line before you sign anything, and you have the right to strike out any line you did not agree to. If you see a charge for paint protection you never asked for, you draw a line through it, you initial it, and you hand it back. They are the ones who padded the form hoping you would not read it, a practice buyers have complained about for decades, where extras appear on the paperwork that were never discussed out loud. The whole game depends on you signing without reading, so you read, out loud if you like, slowly, line by line. And the phrase that makes this bulletproof, the one that comes from the finance world itself, is this. You ask, is this line optional or required? For every single charge that is not the car, the tax, and the official government fees, the honest answer is optional. The word required belongs only to the price of the car, the sales tax, and the real registration and title fees charged by the state. Everything else on that page is optional, which means it is refusable, which means it is yours to cross out. So picture the whole thing now the way it should go. You arrive with a pre-approval from your credit union already in your pocket. You negotiate the car price out on the lot in plain total dollars, never in monthly payments. You walk into the finance office, sit down, and before he opens the folder, you say your 7 words. I decline all add-ons and dealer financing. When he slides the paperwork over, you read every line, and for anything that is not the car, the tax, or the state fees, you ask the same quiet question, optional or required. You cross out the optional. You sign what is left. That is a buyer no finance office in the country can make its usual profit on, not because you are aggressive, not because you are an expert, because you know the 2 secrets that room was built to keep from you, that everything on the menu is optional, and that your loan was never his to pad. The truth was always there. It was written into the buyer's order the whole time. It was sitting in a federal settlement from 2013 for anyone to read. It was known to every finance manager in every dealership in the land. It was just never, ever said out loud to the person in the soft chair who trusted them. Now it has been said to you. So here is what I want you to carry out of this. For years you may have walked out of that little office feeling like you got a deal, when the real deal was the one they got on you, quietly, in 20 friendly minutes. That ends now. You are not a mark to be worn down. You are the one person in that building who read the fine print before the pen touched the page. You are the kind of person who refuses to keep paying for someone else's paycheck just because a room was decorated to make you comfortable. You did the hard part already. You listened all the way to the end, which is more than that finance office ever expected of you. Now, I want to hear from you. Think back to the last car you bought. Do you remember being talked to only in monthly payments, never in a total price? Or do you remember an add-on showing up on the paperwork that you were sure you never agreed to? Tell me about it. Write it in the comments below, even just a sentence, because your story warns the next person who reads it, and this is how we look out for one another. Do not just nod along and scroll past. Leave the comment. It matters more than you think. And if you want to keep seeing through the tricks that were built to keep folks our age paying and paying, subscribe and stand with the rest of us who have decided to stop being the easiest customer in the room. Next time, I am going to show you the truth about extended warranties on the appliances in your own kitchen and the one question at the checkout counter that makes the whole pitch fall apart. You will never sign one of those little clipboards the same way again. I'm so glad you stayed to the end. This video gave you the overview, But the deeper version lives inside my membership, the Wiser Living Circle. In there, you can ask me your own question, and a real person answers me, not a machine. And you won't be alone, folks, just like you are already inside. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen, and you can cancel anytime.